Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In today's video, we are going to discuss about a recent phenomena that is making the headlines, that is cloud seeding. So cloud seeding is something that is done to induce rainfall in the atmosphere, and this term was in use because the Delhi government was thinking of using this method to induce rainfall so that the atmospheric pollution level can be brought down. If you remember, few days back, the pollution level in Delhi has reached a critical level where the AQI index has recorded reading of over 400 in the Delhi region, largely due to the suspended particulate matter and the other gases and smoke that is being released in the winter season. So let us try to understand that how cloud seeding induces rainfall, what is actually cloud seeding, what does the term actually means, and what can be its impact on the monsoon, impact on the rainfall. So first of all, the reason why it is news, as we have discussed, because Delhi government had announced earlier this week that it was considering cloud seeding, or also referred as artificial rain, to wash away pollutants in the air. The now mooted proposal has been attempted previously in India, but only during the monsoon season. Now this is the winter season where the cloud density is very lesser. So whenever generally this cloud seeding is used, when the clouds are present with sufficient amount of moisture, and pre-monsoon month is the best times there. Besides, it has only been done before in country with the purpose of bringing rainfall to the drought prone regions and not to mitigate pollution. So let us try to understand this in more detail. So what is cloud seeding? Now in simplest term, cloud seeding, basically with cloud seeding, clouds are usually injected with salts such as silver iodide, which is the most commonly used salts, potassium iodide or sodium chloride, which is acting like the seed. Now, if try to understand this, basically in the atmosphere, when the water vapor evaporates, goes up in the atmosphere, the temperature decreases. This causes the water vapor to condense. The condensation process can be faster and can be fastened if there is sufficient amount of dust particles or sufficient amount of hygroscopic nuclei, which we can say, are present in the cloud. If hygroscopic nuclei are present in the clouds or in the atmosphere, the water vapor can condense at a much more faster rates and easily. And thus, that is reason why silver iodide, potassium iodide or sodium chloride is spread in the atmosphere, which acts as a seed. Then these salts are expected to provide additional nuclei around which more cloud droplets can be formed. Clouds are nothing but when there is a huge amount of water vapor condensing in a narrow area, the density increases, that leads to formation of cloud. So they are dispersed into the cloud either using aircraft or through generators on the ground. The seeding basically accelerates the cloud microphysical processes and this helps in rapid development of cloud and the resultant rainfall. If we try to understand from this particular diagram how cloud seeding works, in first stage, the silver iodide particles are released from air and or ground-based flare trees. Particles rise with the updraft of the storm's convective band. Convective band basically refers to the upward vertical movement of air in this case, and then it develops into the orographic cloud. Now, orographic term is used whenever we have the rise of warm and moist air in the upward direction, and that generally results into the formation of clouds. So that is the first stage. In the second stage, the hygroscopic nuclei, in this case the silver iodide particles, help the supercooled liquid water freeze into the ice crystals at a certain height in the atmosphere where temperature decreases to less than 0 degrees Celsius. And then finally, as the cloud density increases and as the amount of convective updraft decreases, or basically velocity of convective updraft, its strength decreases, the gravity start to pull the ice crystal that has formed in the cloud in the downward direction. As the ice crystals start to come in downward direction, gradually the temperature rises above 0 degrees Celsius, that causes melting of these ice crystals, and then the water droplets fall on the earth's surface in the form of rainfall. So precipitation efficiency is enhanced as ice crystals fall as snow or rain. So what are the types of condensation nuclei? Since we are discussing this, let us try to understand this as well. The substance that is dispersed into the clouds needs to have a cloud condensation nuclei and ice nuclei, and these two come from two different sorts. For example, if we talk about the cloud condensation nuclei, these are the nuclei which help form the cloud droplets, and ice nuclei then help to form the ice crystals. So ice crystals grow faster than drops and they become larger, and the gravity pulls them down and thus they fall down. However, cloud seeding cannot be done in all the cases, it cannot be done in all the times. there are certain conditions that is required for cloud seeding to effectively work. These conditions have been recognized and identified by the weather scientist or the climatologist, such as the presence of certain types of cloud cover and clouds. Overall, basically, or in a broader way, we can say that total there are 8 to 9 types of clouds. Now, out of these 8 to 9 types of clouds, only 2 to 3 types of clouds are there which can cause rainfall. The most common of them are the cumulonimbus cloud and the nimbostratus cloud. So, if these two types of clouds are present in the atmosphere, the probability of the cloud seeding to effectively work will obviously be high. The second condition here that has been identified is there should be sufficient number of clouds and a particular depth to this cloud, because obviously rainfall cannot happen, cloud seeding cannot work if there is less amount of water vapor in the atmosphere. Because if you try to understand, cloud seeding is working only because the water vapor is able to condense around the hygroscopic nuclei. Now, we are not putting water vapor into the atmosphere in the process of cloud seeding, we are just putting the nuclei. So, if the water vapor is not present, there will be nothing to condense around the nuclei, and this cloud seeding obviously cannot work. And that is why we are saying that sufficient number of clouds and a particular depth to the clouds ensures that there is sufficient amount of water vapor to condense in the atmosphere. The third condition is the presence of an adequate number of cloud droplets for obvious reason. And the last condition is the cloud seeding is done to increase the radius of the cloud droplet so that they will grow bigger, and because of gravity they will come down as a rainfall. So basically we are trying to increase the radius of the cloud droplets. We are not making fresh or new cloud droplets, and that is why the presence of the cloud particles, the presence of the cloud cover is very important for the cloud seeding to work. So the question that comes into our mind is that generally the cloud density, the number of cloud droplets will be higher during the monsoon season, but the Delhi government is planning to use cloud seeding in the winter months. So can clouds form over Delhi in the winter months? That is the first question. So the answer can be given by that. If we try to look at this particular map or diagram, what we see that during the winter month we have a special kind of stream or wind stream that is moving in the upper atmosphere, that is called as the subtropical westerly jet stream. Now, subtropical westerly jet stream, they pick up the moisture from the Mediterranean Sea region and then they pass and flow over the northern part of India somewhere around the Himalayas. So, due to this, as these this movement of the wind, since it is from the west to east direction, these are also called as western disturbance. And thus, when a western disturbance moves over the region, in this case in the North India around the Himalayas, there are storms that originate in the Caspian or Mediterranean Sea, and these storms then are brought to India, which causes non-monsoonal rainfall to the northwestern part of India. So obviously in the winter time, since temperature is less, the rate of evaporation is less, the amount of water vapor in the atmosphere is less, so the possibility of cloud formation can be determined in advance through the radars. Other conditions will have to be studied on the day when seeding is likely to be done. Now, this method, that is the cloud seeding, is not something that is going to be done in India for the first time. This has been done earlier as well in the states such as Karnataka, Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu, but in these states earlier this has been attempted during the monsoon season. That is the first difference. Second, these regions where the cloud seeding was done, the purpose was not to decrease the atmospheric pollution but to bring rainfall in the drought affected region. And in case of these regions, for example, we talk about the Solapur region in Maharashtra, it was done as a part of CAPEX, that is Cloud Aerosol Interaction and Precipitation Enhancement Experiments. It pointed to a relative enhancement of 18% in the rainfall. That means this experiment was successful to a certain extent. However, cloud seeding is not free from challenges. There are a lot of challenges as well. First challenge is the cloud microphysics is more complicated than we can think and understand in simple terms, and seeding would not result in rain, and even without seeding clouds can rain. Second is it is still a very complex and uncertain field of research where more and more study needs to be conducted to examine the short-term and long-term implications of the methods such as cloud seeding. And third, rain forms in the cloud, but whether it reaches the surface or not is also something that we have to be concerned about. So this is determined by several factors. For example, even if you suppose you have spreaded the silver iodide particles in the atmosphere, you have been able to let the water vapor condense around these nuclei, and then water vapor start to condense into water droplet, it is started to come back on the ground surface. But in case, for example, if the temperature at the surface is very higher, before atmospheric temperature, suppose it is very higher. So before this microscopic water droplet can reach the surface, it can re-evaporate back. So it can evaporate on its way down to the surface, since we have a tropical condition, especially in India, where surface temperature, atmospheric temperature is always relatively higher. So this is not as simple as we can think. Now question comes that can cloud seeding and the resultant rainfall will have a good impact, will have a, what you can say, debilitating impact on the pollution level. So in India, so far, cloud seeding, as we have discussed, has not been tried with the purpose of reducing pollution, but only when tried to deal with the drought-like conditions. And there are few cases where China tried weather management options. In India, we don't have investigation that is done in this aspect. So whether this will be successful or unsuccessful, we do not have any previous data. So we'll have to totally depend on seeing the result from this particular experiment. The National Institute of Advanced Studies, it has clearly stated that there should be a significant amount of rain, so it washes away pollutants. It will only be temporary, but if it is successful, it will break the flow of pollutants, and thus it can have a good impact on controlling the pollution level. Obviously, Indian weather conditions are different, and we will need to have a dedicated study on this. Clouds and their processes, as we have discussed, are very complex and non-linear in nature. If you do something, it is not known exactly that it is going to give you this much rain or not, and clouds are also able to rain naturally. So first of all, how do you separate that whether the rainfall that has happened in that region is natural rain or whether it is the result of the seeding, or what we can call as the seeded rain? So these are some points which we have to keep in mind while we try to use the methods such as cloud seeding to cause rainfall or to bring the pollution level down in certain parts of India. That is all for this video. Thank you very much.